All right, Sam, welcome to the GTM Pack podcast. How's it going?
Hey, Justin, it's going well. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I was really excited to have you on. I don't know if you know this background. Obviously, you know, my co-founder, George, was at Reprise in the early days. And Reprise was actually the first interactive demo product that I saw. So a little bit of history here. George, I was a product marketer at another company at the time, and George had reached out to me to do some customer discovery for Reprise, actually. And I was just blown away. I'm a huge fan of the interactive demo space in general, but this was the first time I had actually seen an interactive product demo, and it just blew my mind. And that's also how I got sort of more closely connected with George and ended up working with him on AssetMule. So it's really cool to go full circle and connect with you today and dive into interactive demos.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I knew George back from those days because we'll get into this. I was a very early customer of Reprise's, and he was obviously a pro at he started a bunch of community outreach stuff, and he was all over LinkedIn, and so yeah, we were in touch back in those days. So it was good to reconnect randomly with him and get connected with you through this. So yeah, full circle indeed.
That's awesome. Well, why don't you, for those who don't know you, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background, your career background, and how you got into product marketing and eventually landed at Reprise?
Yeah, so I started my career in content marketing, actually. So I consider myself a writer first and foremost. I love writing, always have, and content marketing was a great way to apply that, especially in the tech startup world. Writing content put me in occasional touch with other departments, but that was the one sticking point in content for me. Is I would occasionally feel, I think, pigeonholed. I wanted to work way more with products and all the cool stuff they were doing. I wanted to actually talk to customers. I wanted to be involved in deals and help sales and get closer to revenue and things like that. And what I realized was there was a role that actually did all of that, and where writing is still super important, and it's called product marketing. And I was lucky enough to have a manager at the time who kind of put those dots together for me and kind of pushed me into it. And I jumped in with both feet and haven't looked back. As for how I ended up at Reprise, like I was saying, it's a bit of a funny story. My last company, I was a very early customer of theirs. It was also the first interactive demo tool I had heard of. I didn't even really know it was a category. But yeah, I was just doing some research, and they were one of 2 or 3 companies that existed at the time who did that. But yeah, I loved the product. I loved all the people I worked with, including George in the early days there. And it was the one company where, I don't know if you've had this or other people have had this. There's always I feel like one company where if you ever start to have wanderlust at a company and you look at someone else's job board or something, seeing what else is out there, Reprise was always that company for me because I just really liked what they were doing. I was totally bought into it. Never made the jump, or they never had the right role for me. But right after my last company got acquired by ZoomInfo, I looked at Reprise's job board. Again, it had director of PMM role, which is exactly what I was looking for, open, and applied and reconnected with a bunch of people I knew from back in the day. And now here I am almost a year later.
That's really cool. By the way, writing is such an amazing background to have for product marketers. I came in a different direction. So I came from sales into product marketing. And I think maybe as a salesperson, I was a little bit of a better writer because I actually also managed a sales development team and was writing a ton of emails for the outreach sequences and stuff like that. My writing got tuned there. But I remember when I first went into product marketing, realizing how important writing was for that role
Mm-hmm.
and really having to learn it, right? I had the email down, but there's so many different types of writing, writing long form content, writing copy for the product, email, social, and all that stuff. And it's one of those skills I think that is so important for product marketing. So what a great background to get into product marketing for sure. But I want to dive into demos, obviously. I think we're both excited about demos and interactive demos. I think you're a self-proclaimed demo nerd. So tell me, how did you get from writing to demos? What was that leap that got you so excited about this not even the interactive demo category yet, but let's say demos in general, and to that point where you consider yourself a demo nerd?
Yeah. So a couple of things. So yeah, I was interested in demos well before there was even a category for interactive demos. But to your point on writing and how it's helpful in all different facets in product marketing, um, it's connected to demos. It's not just writing, like actually putting words on a page. That's helpful. It's the storytelling and communication skills that underpin that, I think. So yeah, like now I'll still be able to like write a blog or a press release or a product announcement, or I'm writing all the time. But more than that, it's what really matters is the storytelling and the communication skills that are underneath that. And that really, really applies to demos as well. Demos, I'll talk about this more and more, but it's I think it's really all about storytelling. And so that was what interested me, I think, from my earliest interactions with demos. It goes back again to my content marketing days. When I first got into the tech startup world, I worked at a company called Darktrace. They're a cybersecurity company out of the UK, and their product. When I tell you it's the coolest looking product out there, I'm not kidding. That it's like this crazy, like cyberpunk looking 3D threat visualizer thing that was just like so cool. And when we were like getting on board in the company, I was actually, for the first and I think only time, maybe envious of the sales team, because they were the ones who got to actually use the product, like click around and use it to tell a story. And that was the demo. And this is sort of my first interaction with demos. And I was really jealous. They had this shiny, cool thing that they got to use. And there was this like story that was all set up in the demo environment where there's like an insider threat extracting data from this device, and Darktrace comes in and like quarantines the device, or I forget the exact, but it was this really cool story. And I got looped in at one point as the sort of resident writer. We were coming out with a new product and needed an updated script, and so I got looped into a project to rewrite the script for the demo. I didn't get to actually give the demo or learn the demo or write the story, but I got to just write the script. And just like being that close to the demo and that close to the product and getting to like work on telling a story through the product is something that must have stuck with me, because once I got into product marketing and every company I've been at now, I've wanted to, I've gone out of my way to really take on demo projects. It's always been like one of the first things I look at when I come into a company is the demo. So I think that must have stuck with me.
Yeah, and you kind of touched on this, but I'm curious to get your perspective on what product marketing's role should be, right, when it comes to demos. Not just interactive demos. I think those that are familiar with interactive demos know that product marketers are often involved in the building of those demos, but even sort of the classic demo, the live demo. I'm curious, sort of, what role do you see product marketing playing in that process?
Yeah, so it's a great question. It's surprisingly, I don't know if it's controversial, but there are definitely differing opinions out there, and I have a very strong opinion on this. And it's that I think PMMs should be absolutely front and center when it comes to demos of any kind, whether it's interactive demos on your website, which I think are core product marketing assets. But I mean, and we'll talk about that more, I think. But when just talking about like the sales demo, I think too often that gets pigeonholed on sales enablement or the sales team themselves or product or engineering, and like it kind of blows my mind when PMMs are left out of the loop of that, or when PMMs don't want to put themselves in that sort of quarterback role around figuring out how to best demo the product. In my mind, that's like core product marketing work. It's the center of the product, and again, storytelling. It's like you have all these other assets and ways where you can use the product to tell a story, to sell value. You have things on your website, you have pitch decks, you have messaging, you have sales assets. But then when it comes to time to actually like show the product live, PMMs are supposed to like step back. That's kind of crazy to me. I think that's precisely where product marketing should be the most concerned about how the product is perceived. Like that's the make or break moment for me. Like people can poke around on the website and like, maybe if your messaging isn't perfect or you have like a blurry screenshot on your website, that's like not a great experience. But if you're giving someone a live sales demo and their first time like seeing the product in action is a bad one, that can like throw off an entire deal, right? So I think that's like precisely where product marketers should be the most involved. Partially also because I think that's where people mess up product experiences a lot. Like I think it's super, super common to have a demo where people are just going, screen by screen saying, here's this feature and here's this feature. Oh, and did you see this cool feature here? And people are just selling features and functions and aren't doing any kind of storytelling. They aren't, tying in value at every point on a demo. You should be weaving into a broader story, trying to tease out these value points. And that's what product marketers are great at. And so at a minimum, I think product marketers should be involved in the demo process, like building out demo environments, building out scripts. But I think there's a good case to be made at a lot of companies for PMMs being like the quarterback driving the actual demo itself.
Yeah, I think you make such a good point. Like, to me, the big difference between a good and a bad demo, and there's a couple of things, right? But storytelling, I think, is one of the biggest things. I've been on those demos where it's like, more of like a product tour, feature by feature, and not a story. So to me, the two key things are storytelling and relevance, right? And making sure that the salesperson is showing the things that actually align with the challenges or the goals that prospect is trying to overcome or achieve, right? And a product marketer is so well suited to understand that ICP and those pain points and which features and use cases align with those, but also to then weave it into a story. So I'm with you 100%. And coming from a sales background, my demos used to be my favorite part of the job, which I feel was maybe a good early indicator that in my heart, I was really a product marketer, disguised as a salesperson is what I like to say. You talked about a couple other teams that are involved in the demos, right? Mm-hmm. Obviously, sales, right? But you mentioned some others. I'm curious, what in your mind, what are the different teams? Like, product marketers are always known for having to collaborate with various different teams and be sort of that quarterback. So what are the teams that should be involved in a demo, and what are the roles that they play in that demo?
Yeah, great question. So yeah, PMMs should never be working in a silo. If you are, that should be setting off alarm bells. You might be doing something wrong. And especially so with demos. When it comes to demos, interactive or otherwise, you need to be working across departments. So for the live sales demo, of course, sales should be heavily involved. And I think that's up and down the sales organization, like including if I'm building out a new demo talk track, I need to get alignment with the VP of sales to have that core alignment there. But I also need to get buy-in from the individual AEs, like listen to their calls, talk to them, see what they like or dislike about the current demo, find out what kind of stories are resonating with them, what areas of the product are or aren't resonating, and just like be a sponge for AEs and just like get as much information as possible for them, so that when you're building out the demo flow, the talk track, the script, what have you, the AEs can then see themselves in that, which will lead to, I think, a better end product on the one hand, but also better adoption on the other hand. If you just you're a salesperson, and of course, I'm sure you've had product marketers or someone like hand you a thing, like here's a pitch deck, here's a script, go use it. And I don't know, salespeople don't have the best reaction when you do that. You get a lot better buy-in, a lot better adoption and usage when, again, they can see themselves in the thing that you've put together. So I think working hand in hand with sales up and down the org is super, super important. The other side, and they're often in the sales org, but the sales engineers and solutions engineers, super, super important for this. In fact, at Reprise, the SE teams are usually the ones who actually own the demo software that goes into building live sales demos. And that's because, for as much as PMMs know, value and pain points and storytelling, SEs, solutions engineers, their superpower is actually, giving demos and doing, that live translating complex technical ideas into plain speak. They're also, superstars at, technical discovery, which is great for, pre and mid demo, actually doing that technical discovery. And SEs, I think, tend to be more technical than your average PMM. So, and building demos, the actual nuts and bolts of like building a demo environment can be technical at times. So SEs are, I think, really well equipped to own both the demo building and then the demo presenting, actually like giving the demos. So they are often, if PMM isn't the quarterback of the live sales demo, it's usually the SE team who is, which I totally see. What does bother me sometimes, though, is when they aren't working aligned. That's another thing that like kind of is crazy to me when SEs and PMMs aren't aligned when it comes to the demo, especially since we've been talking around it a little bit, but there are two major use cases for demo software. There's the live sales demo, and then there's interactive demos. And typically, it's been SEs and sales are involved in the live demo, PMMs are involved in the interactive tour side of things. But the way that the landscape has evolved, a lot of times the ideal is that it's the same demo software that's solving for both use cases. So PMMs should be involved in both use cases. SEs should be involved in both use cases. So if a PMM is building an interactive tour, they should be talking to sales and they should be talking to SEs about what's resonating live, because what's resonating live will probably resonate in a self-guided tour on your website just as well.
Yeah, it makes total sense. I mean, I don't see why you wouldn't want to have consistency across those two experiences, right? As a buyer, imagine seeing an interactive demo on the website, signing up to see a live demo, and then seeing something that's completely different. It wouldn't make any sense. So it just makes sense that that there would be sort of alignment and consistency across it. I do want to dig into interactive demos specifically.
Yep.
At this point, I think interactive demos, I'd like to think they're mainstream. I mean, more and more SaaS companies, I go to their homepages and I see interactive demos. I'm starting to see more and more demo centers as well. So you're now seeing more than just the one demo. You're seeing specific use cases or personas and all these different things. And now at this point, there's got to be an enormous amount of demos that have been created and that you've seen, both as somebody that has created them themselves as a user, but also now working at Reprise. So in your mind, what makes a good interactive demo? What are some of the attributes that really make some demos stand out from the rest?
Yeah, so a couple things. I think one of the big ones that I think gets overlooked a little bit in the demo landscape today is that the product, what you're actually showing, should look and feel real. I think a lot of times people kind of try to get away with what are basically end up being like screenshot tours where it's kind of like a slideshow where it goes back to what I was saying. It doesn't work in a live sales demo. It doesn't work, I don't think, on a product tour on a website either, where it's like, here's one screen, guide of what's happening on the screen. Here's another screen, guide of what's happening on the screen. It's got to be much more interactive than that, where you want to actually like take an action, show something changing in your product, something that's going to get your attention, something that's going to tell a story, give someone an aha moment, and do it in such a way that shows off, even if it's just like one little like widget of your product, but like one of the cooler, like flashier elements of your product. You want to show like an animated graphic, and you change a filter and a thing changes, and just like having that little like aha moment where it's visual of a thing changing is really, really key. So I think that's one part of it. The other side too is I think there's this other category of demo technology that's much more video oriented, and again I think has its place. But when it comes to again what makes a good interactive demo, I think you want to be the one doing the clicking. It sounds small, but you want to see yourself. You were talking about it yourself. Like it should be relevant to the user. And a really good way to make it relevant is to have the user actually be the one clicking through and doing the action, which is something you can't really get with sort of video technology. Another thing is I've found just through my personal usage that it is really, really important for it to be short. I think there's a common trap to fall into where you want to show everything because your product is the best, the coolest. You want to show off your top 10 features. My strong recommendation is show off your top 1, maybe 2 things. And I'm talking like it's really hard to do because, as a product marketer, you have so much stuff in your head that you want to, let everyone know about. But it should be like 5 to 10 clicks, ideally, with like relatively short guides that you can kind of skim, you can kind of get the gist of. Should be ungated. That's another key thing off the bat. But then once you get to the end of sort of that one golden demo, ungated, flashy, interactive, cool, then you have an off ramp either to like to a demo or an off ramp to another an off ramp to like to get a demo, so to actually like book a traditional demo, or to a different demo where you can like choose your own adventure then and say like, oh, that was cool, but now I'm interested in this. Then you can gate that and capture their information. Or you can have like a floating CTA where as they go through the whole thing, they can have an off ramp to get a demo, but there should still be some lead gen aspects to it. Whether that's an off ramp to like getting a traditional demo or to, as you said, going to a different use case, for instance. So that's the last thing I'd say is best practices to have that one golden demo, but then like a demo center or a demo library of all of these different use cases that you might care about more. So for, different industries, different use cases, different personas, and building at that really robust library lets you build out some, just a much stronger story. And then what's really cool is when you can use those same or similar assets in an ungated version in a live sales demo. Again, so it speaks to using sort of the same product, the same platform for multiple use cases.
Yeah, I sometimes think that a way to sort of highlight the attributes of a good demo is to think about some of the bad interactive demos you've seen. And as you're talking through it, I have like memories of like going to a website and clicking on the interactive demo only to be gated, right before I can even see anything. Yeah, or clicking through it and it's just like I can see at the bottom sometimes they show like how many steps are going to be, and there's like 50 steps, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm out of here, right? So totally, those all make a lot of sense. Keep it short and sweet. I really like the idea of, this is an interactive demo, right? So like make it feel like they're actually using the product, right? Otherwise, you just use a demo video, right? Like,
at that point,
but like, yeah, exactly. And then the gating is something that really, really gets me. It's like the whole point here is to give them that experience. Totally, you want a call to action. You want to be able to get the lead or book the meeting and so on. But like let them feel the product, see the product, get the experience, get that to that point where they want to do that next step. Putting that at the front is just like you're just kind of like gating yourself from getting that demo, I think. So totally good points there. Talking about the interactive demo space in general, again, when I first came across Reprise, I think you guys were like the only 1 or 2 players in this space. It's evolved a lot. So in your mind, how has it evolved? What does this space look like today versus what it looked like maybe when you first came across interactive demos?
Yeah, so it has evolved massively. So when I was first looking for demo software, I didn't even really know demo software existed. It sort of didn't. This was 5 years ago, I'd say. There were, I think, like 2, maybe 3 vendors on the block. Talked to everyone, and went with Reprise, like I was saying, and was a very early customer of theirs. But fast forward, 5 years now, and the space has exploded to the point where like I kind of can't imagine. I mean, I have to because it's my job, but kind of can't imagine being a buyer of demo software today, just because there's so many vendors and they all kind of say they do the same thing. So like very similar messaging, saying they're solving very similar problems, and in ways that sound very similar. But again, speaking to my job, part of what I'm trying to do is like get people to dig under the surface a little bit. So people are saying they solve for all these use cases in ways that sound very similar, but the tech that is out there is actually quite different. So I'd say the biggest trend that has happened is that everyone has gotten into the space sort of at the quote unquote like lighter weight end of the market, where you can do sort of those very simple screen by screen captures, piece them together into a product tour that you can put up on your website. And at the simplest level, you can do it with technology that literally works like a screenshot. So it's not going to capture any of your actual product. It just takes a screenshot, and then you can piece them together, put guides on them, put them on your website. A layer deeper than that, you actually start to capture the HTML and CSS of your product so that you can make things a little bit more interactive. You can actually edit things on the screen to change data, tell a certain story. So those sort of two ways of doing things are at one end of the market, and they are, I think, frankly, easier to get started with, both as a user and as a vendor trying to get into the space. The interesting thing is that people have realized that same technology, that same concept at least, can be applied to a whole bunch of different use cases. So I think the website product tour is the one that makes the most sense and is the easiest way to get started. But then you can use the same asset or the same concept for leave behind. So a salesperson can send a demo after they give the live demo, or send it before they do that. You can use it at a conference. You can use it in a webinar. You can use it for a live sales demo. There are just all these different use cases. And what has happened in the market is there've been all these vendors on that one end that are doing sort of just that more quote unquote basic screen capture technology, and then trying to apply it across the board for all of the use cases. And then throughout the market, the other sort of demo types, you can also do demos on top of a production environment where you inject data into a live environment and use that to give a demo. The vendors who do that then also expanded and say that you can use that same technology to create a website product tour of some kind, or you can use that same technology to do X, Y, and Z. And the same thing for if you do an application clone. So that's another kind of demo where you are sort of recreating your product from the ground up in a sort of a self-contained demo environment. Same thing. Vendors who came into that end of the market are saying that technology is great for every potential use case. And our POV and sort of at Reprise, our differentiation is that being the first, or one of the first to the market, we've had frankly the time and the resources to build out each of these different types of demo technology to be specialized for each of those different use cases. So instead of trying to have one demo type and say that is the silver bullet and it's going to cover everything, we have every major type of demo capture technology, and you can mix and match them because, again, there's no silver bullet really. It's not that simple. So there's actually really, really good reason why one would want to have all of these different tools in your tool belt. So I think that's the biggest thing that's evolved, is just not just the number of vendors that have come up in the space, but sort of everyone coming in and saying, and expanding all the different kinds of use cases. And buyers are understanding that as well. And they're not just seeing demo technology in this really narrow lens that maybe they did at the beginning. Buyers are seeing demo software and want a demo platform. They want one tool that can solve for all of the demo use cases.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So it sounds like over the last couple of years, the number of use cases and the number of vendors has expanded dramatically. But there seems to be a lot of vendors that are sort of using the same set of technology that was built for one use case across all. And Reprise, having been one of the earliest players in the space, has managed to develop technology that is better suited for each one of those use cases rather than using it across all of them, which makes a lot of sense. I do think there's differences between what you would want in a product tour on your website as a first sort of touch to a live demo environment, or even a test environment. So it makes a lot of sense. Now looking to the future a little bit here, where's this space going, right? Obviously, everybody's talking about AI, so that might be an area that you can touch on. I'd be really interested in your perspective on how AI plays a role in interactive demos, or will, but just more generally speaking, where do we go from here with interactive demos?
Yep. Yeah, so AI is the answer. It's always the answer these days, and it's kind of true. I mean, there are a ton of ways AI can impact the demo space. There are a ton of ways that it already is. I think the biggest application to date has been AI-powered data generation. So, I mean, I've been talking throughout about the importance of storytelling. We've been talking about making sure that demos are relevant to the users, whether that's on a website product tour or a live sales demo. And the best way to do that is with data. But the issue with generating data manually is it's extremely time consuming, right? And I mean, just hard to do. Like if I need to create a demo for a brand new vertical and I don't know anything about that vertical, like if I need to come up with a new demo that targets German auto manufacturing companies, I don't know anything about German car companies, but you know who does? AI. And so I can just like quickly whip up a whole data sets that can, you know, is in German, has all of these car company examples, and I can just use AI to, and just like with a basic ChatGPT prompt of like create a data set for German car manufacturing companies with X, Y, and Z specifications, and then it can create that in a way that you can inject it into a demo environment with just a single click. And then you can swap between different verticals, different personas with AI generated data. And it's just a really, really powerful way that is already impacting the space right now. So I think that's the now. I think the way AI impacts demos moving forward is going to be really interesting because data generation is really cool. Content generation, I mean, we've kind of been there, done that in terms of like, you know, AI written emails. You can have a similar thing in demo of like AI written guides. So, you know, AI is obviously good at writing copy. But what about like the really thorny problems around, and this is where agentic AI starts to come in. So with demos, with the harder demos in particular, like, you know, a complex live demo environments that where you need to demo something, we need to demo something like AI, for instance, or where you need to demo like this complex API integration across your different products. It's not just hard to create the data that fills that in, but it's hard to actually capture that environment and maintain it yourself. That typically, you know, even using demo software takes manual work. What we're seeing right now where AI could impact things is AI could automatically, for instance, detect the way that you captured your product sort of the first time. So it can track, like, this is the exact click path this person took. This is the exact actions they took when they created this demo environment. So that when you need to recapture it, for instance, it can follow that exact click path, take those exact same actions, and recapture the product with new product updates. It can do that automatically. It can, you know, we can have AI-powered diagnostics where you can detect if something went wrong in that capture process. You can have AI-powered configuration where, you know, making sure that everything works out of the box. You don't need to have, you know, SEs spending their time manually configuring demo environments. You can have AI do it for you. And then, yeah, again, you can have, you know, when the product updates, the AI can go back and recapture and update your product so that AI is taking care of like all of those like thorny backend configuration maintenance problems, and salespeople or SEs or whoever's actually giving the demo can like totally forget about that and just focus on the, you know, more core revenue generating opportunities, like just, you know, giving more and giving better demos.
It's fascinating. I think it's going to be a really, really exciting future for interactive demos, particularly. I'm a big believer on personalization. You know, that's part of our core value proposition here at AssetMule, and being able to like personalize those demos to industries or specific use cases with the help of AI without having to do all the manual work that maybe it takes today to build that out is really, really fascinating. And as you said in the latter part of your response, sort of taking away a lot of that heavy lifting in the process of creating new demos and so on. It seems like, I don't know, our lives are going to get a lot better, easier. I'm sure there'll be other challenges and problems to solve, but there's going to be a lot of more strategic stuff that we can be focusing on versus the busy work.
Exactly.
This has been awesome. I don't know if you noticed, but I'm also a demo nerd. I love this stuff. So I really appreciate you coming on and giving us an inside look on this really fascinating space, your experience in it, and what the future looks like. If folks want to learn more from you, about you, want to connect with you, where's the best place for them to find you?
LinkedIn, honestly, yeah. LinkedIn, both my personal and follow Reprise. I'd say we're coming out with a lot of like first party data these days.
Mm.
That is I think going to be of definite interest to PMMs because it's all about demo space. But we're publishing stuff around SEs right now. We're going to talk about how sales teams use demos. We're going to talk about how PMMs can use demos. But we're putting out a lot of first party data stuff right now, and it's all on LinkedIn. That's where I think PMMs live there. I think SEs live there these days. That and like Reddit and ChatGPT is what I'm finding. So that's where I live too. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, again, thanks so much for coming on, for sharing all these great insights. And we're looking forward to hearing more and seeing some of that content on LinkedIn.
Cool. Thanks so much, Justin. Great being here.